What about mile zero? What is
Yeah.
mile zero?
Yeah, mile zero. You guys are, you're here in Florida. You've been down to Key West. Every time you go to Key West, you don't actually remember much about what you did in Key West. That's just the nature of that beast. But there is one thing I do remember about going down there is there is a road sign that says mile zero, and it's awesome. Like it, and I looked at it. It's right. It's Highway 1, mile zero. Is that the beginning or is it the end? I don't know. It's mile zero, right? But basically what it is a reset. Let's go!
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, get ready to be inspired. Today we have Joshua Lifrak, and I don't care if you are a professional athlete, a collegiate athlete, a young athlete, a CEO, C-suite, you are going to change your mindset today because at the end of the day, leadership performance is determined by mindset. Joshua, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. I remiss because I didn't bring my beverages for the Liquid Lunch podcast. I'm like, what am I doing here? I just forgot to even bring water or anything up. Ridiculous.
We could make up for that next time we meet. But how did you get into the mindset game?
Yeah, it's a funny story. I had a degree in sociology from the University of Rhode Island. I graduated there in 1994. So for the next 10 years of my life, I was a waiter in restaurants. And so I had no clue what the heck I wanted to do with my life. And I was just kind of kicking around the New York City restaurant scene, which was great. Like it was super fun. And like, it was, living in New York City in your 20s is an absolute adventure. Like
probably the best way to learn to read people.
100%. Like it's funny. Like we had a phrase, I'll get to the Cubs stuff in a little bit, but we had a phrase at the Cubs. It was YNK, you never know. And it was from their scouting department. And you never know what question's going to lead to what answer. And you never know what person you're going to meet that you talk to that could give you some information on this player or whatever. But at that time in my life, I was in this space of like curiosity and adventure where I was like, I don't know what this is going to bring to me. I know this isn't my life for the rest of my life, being working in 3 and 4 star restaurants in New York. It's fun. It's amazing. It feels like a competition every single night. And I have so much respect for the restaurant industry from being in it. But I also knew it was preparing me for something else, but I just had no clue what that was. And what it ended up being was it prepared me to be able to deal with professional athletes because I got to wait on, like Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. I get to wait on Madonna. I get to wait on every member of U2 at different restaurants, right? I got to meet Bob Dylan. I got to meet all
Josh,
these.
You are talking to two native New Yorkers. You have to tell us which restaurants you worked at.
Yeah, I worked at Babbo. Was the first one on Waverly and West 4th there.
Great place.
Yeah, unbelievable. I opened that restaurant up back in the day when Mario Batali was just becoming Mario Batali, and it was really, really special. And then I worked at another place off of Park Avenue called Veritas. It doesn't exist anymore, but it had the world's largest wine list at one point. Right there, right near the Flatiron Building. So, those were the types of places that you're working in. And Anthony Bourdain would come in there all the time. That guy was unbelievable. Right. But so here I was in that world but I had always been an athlete. My whole life I was an athlete. I was a rower in college. I played basketball. I ran cross country. I rode in high school. And I was just ready. I don't know. There was something about the sports world that was always an allure to me. And I was on a mountain bike ride one day upstate New York. And I kind of had this moment of epiphany where I was going over an element on my mountain bike that I had been over tons of times before. But for some reason on this one day, I couldn't get past it. Like it was like almost like the yips or something like that. Like I just like every time my tire would hit the front lip of the bridge that I was trying to go over, I would put my brakes on and I would freak out. And then I was like, wait, no, I'd done this before, right? So I kept telling myself, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this over and over. Like power, positive mindset, right? I can do this. And nothing changed. Like I just kept going down and I kept hitting the brakes and I wouldn't get across. And then like the heavens opened up and all of a sudden I had this moment where I was like, oh, wait a second. It's not about if I can do it or not. Okay, I know I can do it. It's about how did I do it in the past? And it was like, it was just kind of like focusing on my form. So it was like, right pedal down, left pedal up, 2 power pedals. And I started saying to myself that, like right down, left up, 2 power, right down, left up, 2 power. Sure enough, I came down and I went zip right across the bridge. And in that moment, I was like, wow, all I did was change how I thought about something and my outcomes completely changed. And I wonder if you could study this thing. I wonder if there's any like field that, investigates how your mind can influence performance. And sure enough, there's this field called sports psychology. I had a degree in sociology. So if I was going to go back to school, I was going to have to go back to school. Like I was going to have to do some undergraduate credits. Luckily enough, Brooklyn College had a sports psych program at the time, and they had a physical education department that was robust. And so I went out and did 20 credits at Brooklyn College to get all my anatomy and physiology and all that stuff in order, and then went up to Ithaca College and did a master's degree in sports psych.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what was your first job with a sports psychology degree? Now you've got all this useful knowledge. What do you do with it?
Yeah, I go down to a place called IMG Academy. So at 30 years old, I go and I intern at IMG Academy. I'm engaged to be married. That's spring. It's the summertime. I go down. I have a bunk bed. I'm sharing a room with another intern. I'm 30 years old, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I was like, yes, this is it. This is what we got going on. And so I did an internship there at IMG Academy. Chad Bowling, who was running the Department of Sports Psychology at the time, ends up getting hired by the New York Yankees. So he leaves, and there's a vacancy. And I not that I could ever replace Chad. He's probably the best in the world at what he does. But I was able to secure a spot down at IMG Academy, and then spent the next 10 years of my life there meeting incredible athletes, working with Olympic gold medalists, working with Wimbledon finalists, working with MVPs from baseball, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as well as athletes that were ages 10 to 18 that were in the high school there. And it was just an absolute proving ground for not only the athletes, but for the practitioners as well. I always joke that I should have 5 PhDs from working there.
Man, that New York City restaurant scene at that time,
yeah,
that was wild.
It was great, man.
I was a waiter too, a little
Nice.
later on, but that's just a different lifestyle, right? That's we get done at 2 a.m. and we're going out after.
Yeah, exactly right.
And you have money in your pocket. You have money in your pocket, but the next day when you go in, you might be broke because you had all that cash in your pocket from tips.
Exactly. It's funny. I talk about it like in the first chapter of the book that I just released in June, Win Today. I talk about that. Like that's the first chapter is just that life and just how insane it was, and how I think people also don't realize the intensity of the New York City restaurant industry. Like your stuff's got to be perfect, man. Like managers go around with their thumb and they put it on the table, and if that fork's not one thumbnail away from the edge of the table, you got to redo the whole table. It's like.
But Josh, isn't that the perfect analogy for sports? Right? There's so much competition for you to achieve. You have to try to attain that perfection, whether it's sushi or whether it's the wine list of Veritas or the ossobuco at Babbo. If you're not perfect, how can you justify that $55 entree? Right. But that trickles down to not just the service, but also the lighting and the music. So bring that over into the sports world.
You haven't been out to eat in a while. When's the last time you got a $55 entree somewhere?
Yeah, it's more like 85 nowadays, right? It's ridiculous. Yeah. Translating that to sports. So here's the thing. Like, and I said it earlier as we were talking about it. Like every night was a competition for us. It really was, because and you had to work as a team, and you did have a team, right? I had back waiters, I had runners, I had all these people I had sommeliers, and you just have to work in concert with them to have this symphony play beautifully. And the diner can't know that there's any chaos, right? Like it's kind of like front of the house, back of the house. Like the front of the house is like classical music and like, waltzes. And you walk through the kitchen doors and there's like knives being thrown across the thing. People are swearing in all sorts of languages. That guy was a convict last night. It's like, it's awesome. Right? I love the dichotomy of that. Right. But ultimately, I think what you learn in the world of restaurants that applies to sport is that people are people. Right. And again, like I mentioned, I waited on these like ridiculous stars, Steve Martin, whoever. Right. And what you start to learn real quick is they're just human beings and they happen to be doing extraordinary things. And that's the way it is with athletes too. They're really normal. They're really normal human beings that do extraordinary things, and they make the most out of their talent, and they work their butts off, and they're focused, but they have trouble with their marriage. They have doubts in their heads. They have fears. All that stuff is real. And I think it allowed for me to be able to not look at, a superstar athlete as something more than they were. Now, there's other things that they have to deal with. There's other distractions they have to deal with. Like being out in public is just different than when you and I go out in public. But I think it's, those things kind of play into it. And I think as well, what you're talking about there, Lou, perfection. And that's always the goal. That's always the goal, is to shoot for perfection with the understanding and the common sense knowledge that perfection is impossible. And so in those moments of perfection, that's where you become really grateful and just love them,
There's this great speech, and I'm going to go back to the soccer/football world for a second, because we just finished the World Cup. Paolo Maldini, what many people will regard as probably one of the best defenders
of all time
on the planet. He gives a speech a couple of years back and says, "I am the biggest loser in football." And he lists all the finals he lost. I lost 3 Champions League finals. I lost a World Cup final. And he goes down this list. And people are like, oh, wow, he did during a 17, 18-year career, because, but I also won. And then he lists all his victories. So like that fine line between ultimate success and what we deem as failure, which I think is unfair. Like losing a World Cup final is not a failure. Man, you made it to the World Cup, right? You're a professional athlete. You are probably the 1% of the 1% in your field to achieve such stardom. But to the winner go the spoils, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. I as you were talking about Maldini, I was thinking about Roger Federer. And I don't know if you guys have seen that clip where he's talking about how he only won like 54% of his points or something to that nature.
Yeah, that's
right.
Amazing.
It's like insanity, right? So that means he lost 46% of his points. But he was the greatest tennis player of all time, right? And Djokovic as well. Djokovic talks about how, they asked him about his gift of mental toughness. And he's like, it's not a gift. Are you kidding me? I work my butt off at it.
It's survival.
And the difference between me and, I'm an elite and somebody who's good is the fact that I notice really quickly that I'm negative, that I'm not focused, that I'm frustrated, right? And I catch myself thinking bad and I just draw myself back in really quickly. And I think that's the big key too, is to recognize, with this, what am I saying? The road to perfection, right? The draw towards perfection, the want of perfection is the reality of that you're going to be massively imperfect on that road. And what's perfect is catching yourself being imperfect and then drawing yourself back into the key moments that are going to help you be as good as you possibly can be.
So you work with a lot of elite athletes. You work with a lot of business leaders, right?
Yeah.
Now, both these groups have a lot in common, but what do you see them both get wrong about pressure?
So it's really interesting. I've been kind of thinking about this lately. And I had a conversation recently with a woman who works with a lot of hedge fund people in the psychology field. And what was interesting is she was talking about how there's always emotion. And it's kind of interesting because I kept thinking about, locking into the performance is not about, locking into the process over and over and over again, right? And the process. And when I'm in the process that I'm not having emotion. And as I was talking to her, I was like, well, wait a second, actually, I am having emotion. And that emotion is confidence, or the emotion is conviction, or something to that nature, right? So there is an emotion there. And I just found it kind of interesting that, like, here's this thing, and I for years I thought the best of the best of the best played without emotion. They got to this like even keeled place, but actually there is emotion there. Now the emotion might be peacefulness, right? But there is an emotion there. So I thought that was interesting. So I think that's one thing that people get wrong is that, hey, I don't have to feel the pressure. Like, oh, pressure's there. Well, I don't have to worry about it. It's just no, man, like pressure, you feel it. You feel it and you have emotions around it. So the big key is this: how do I manage those emotions so those emotions are working for me versus against me? And that's the whole thing. So I think that's one of the biggest things that people get wrong is that the athletes that view pressure as an opportunity, and the companies and the executives that view pressure as an opportunity, they often thrive in that world. Those that see pressure and they go through it and they go, oh, this is hard, this is difficult, this is a challenge, and they look at the negative consequences of pressure, they're the ones that usually struggle. So it's a lot about, like, it's funny, Lamine Yamal was talking about pressure. I don't know if you heard this, Lou, but he was saying, I don't feel pressure because every time I'm on the field, it's fun for me. I just love playing the game. It's just fun. And so, like, he kind of flipped it around and he changed it into this mindset of like,
can we attribute that to the innocence of youth? He's 19 years old. Maybe he doesn't even realize what's going on. He's like,
but it's also about the stories we tell ourselves, right? So if I don't, if I don't perform well in this World Cup, I'm not going to get signed by Real Madrid and I'm not going to make this money. And then my family's going to be upset. It's like, but that's like just this giant story oftentimes of consequence versus this story of the process and enjoying what I'm doing. Right? We have a chance every day to decide how we're going to go about the day. Most of us don't take it. Most of us just roll into the day and it's another day by default. And let's just see what happens. And let me react to stuff. Versus kind of setting yourself up for success and say, hey, this is how I'm going to go through today. I'm going to have fun today. I'm going to be joyous today. I'm going to be excited today. Right. And if you kind of set yourself up for that early on, and you decide, you set that intention in the morning, hey, then you're going to be more apt to come back to it.
Is your advice to treat every day with that same intensity and same approach? Because I guess what happens in a World Cup, it's every 4 years. So there's this aspiration, right? You're looking forward to it. You're training towards it. Players feign these injuries in April and May to be fresh for June, right? Or are you just saying, look, yes, there's a World Cup, but then when the World Cup ends, you're going to start the season in September. Treat every day as sacred.
I mean, to be honest with you, that's it. We just saw it in 2020, right? I don't know if you guys are in Florida or if you're in New York. I was in Florida, so it wasn't as horrible as it was for the people in New York. But the world can legitimately, you don't know what's coming tomorrow. We don't know. I mean, COVID hit and the world just stopped. Yeah. And so hopefully the day before COVID hit, I had a great day because now the day is completely different and I'm upside down, right? So we literally don't know what's coming tomorrow. So why not just win today, right? And that's the name of the book, right? Like win today. Let's just attack today and have a great day today. And then tomorrow, let's reset and let's do it again. I think people think that having that mindset of like competition towards a day and trying to win a day, like, is that going to wear me out? Am I going to get burned out from that? No, because you can go into it with fun and adventure and curiosity and joy. And you go into things like that, then every day is just freaking fun,
But that's the thing, though, right? People always overestimate what they can do in the short term,
absolutely,
and not what it'll look like in the long term. So, with your example before, I lost 47% of my matches, but I won 54. Right? Yep. That's over how much time? So if you go in and you just try to win the day, hopefully you come out with more W's than L's.
Yeah, and the other thing that we know, Matt, is that little by little becomes a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And nothing like the overnight success never really happened. It was all these like steps that led up to that. And it was the chipping away, and just day after day. But you can keep that scoreboard for yourself.
Unless you bought a meme coin and became an overnight gazillionaire in crypto.
Yeah. Right. There you go.
But anyway, yeah. So I definitely think you got to stay more focused in the moment. Is the way I try to get through things, right? Because be aware of what you want to, where you want to go, but don't make that I feel like if I focus on that, then I take a step back and something doesn't go the right way, and I keep focusing on that, I just keep having more losses.
Yeah,
Right? I bring myself down through a vicious cycle.
Absolutely. So. It's like the golfer that hits a bad shot and just keeps thinking about the bad shot over and over again. And guess what happens? And they're going to have way more bad shots, So it's about, I think when something negative happens, it's about the fix. Okay. This is just what happened. Here's where I am now. How do I move forward from it? Period. And if we can go that way, that becomes easier said than done. Obviously, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of mental work, takes a lot of recognition is if I'm getting negative or if I'm letting this affect me over and over again. But the reality is, hey, ultimately there's always a way, and I think that's what the great athletes, the great CEOs, the great executives, they have that mindset that there's always a way. We're going to find a way. We're going to figure it out. We might not have that answer right now, but we're going to keep working at stuff. We're going to keep peeling the things back. We're going to keep working on that eggshell, and then sooner or later, something's going to pop out.
Well, you got to have the drive to keep going, even though you're going to fail. But what you were saying when you were riding that bike earlier, before you decided to get started, you were just 1 foot up, 1 foot down, 1 foot up, 1 foot down. That's what you were focused on that allowed you to get over that hill or whatever that was, that terrain that you were in at that time. Yeah. Sometimes it's just going back to the basics and in my opinion, focusing on what's directly in front of you. Right.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's the simplicity of the basics. And when you do the basics, we used to say in Chicago, do simple better, right? Stop doing complex worse and do simple better. And when you do simple better, like the good stuff just kind of starts taking care of itself.
Speaking of Chicago, how do you take a negative aura or a losing mentality and convert that into a winning mentality? Or is there even such a thing as a losing mentality?
There absolutely is, Lou. There absolutely is. I've been around those teams before too. Those are tough. Those are tough vibes. The losing mentality, they complain, they point fingers, they blame, they make excuses, low accountability, and then apathy. There's just a bunch of apathy around. They don't really care. Those are losing mentalities.
Is that from leadership though, in the culture?
It can be from a number of different things. Typically, it always rolls downhill, right? So we were lucky in Chicago because we had an incredible president, Theo Epstein, who is, was rated by Forbes magazine as one of the world's greatest leaders. And so Theo really put into a great culture, had a great ethos, had a great way about him, was a super connector, was super engaged, curious, all those types of things, right? And then he also had a lot of trust for his employees and the people that worked in Chicago. And so we were allowed to build a culture from the ground up, which was awesome because it typically always comes from the top down. And what we were able to do is really get in with the younger players, right? The Albert Almoras, the Chris Bryants, the Kyle Schwarbers at the time who were still in the minor leagues, and really infuse into them this culture of positivity, this culture of, you know what it means to be That's Cub? You know what That's Cub really means? When you do something great. It's not about when you do something wrong. As a matter of fact, when you do something really good, we're going to call you out and we're going to point at you and go, hey, man, that's Cub right there. You ran hard to first base. You made a great block in the dirt and behind the plate. You hit the cutoff man. You cleaned up the dugout after the game. You volunteered at a charity, right? Those are hey man, that's Cub right there, and we'll call it out, right? So that's one of the things is how do you change a mindset? Is you catch people winning at the values you want to live in your organization. I don't know about you guys, but I've been into a number of different organizations, and you ask people what are the values, and nobody knows. You look up on a wall, they're all up there. They're printed on the wall, But if you ask people to tell them what they are, they don't know what it is, and then they don't know how to act like it, right? And so that's one of the things that we did there was we called out the value system of being Cub. We had a whole list of different things that I won't go through on this podcast. But basically, when guys would do the stuff that we were talking about, we would call them out publicly, loudly. When they were doing stuff that wasn't in line with those values, we'd pull them aside and put our arm around them and have a conversation. But I think that's the big thing too, is that, how do you change something from negative to positive is you You catch your people winning. You catch them winning at the things that are going to be really impactful, how you want to be as an organization. And then you celebrate loudly when the things happen that are good.
You have a couple sayings and cool like words that I like, right? So explain and unpack this for me. You say neutral thinking can beat positive thinking. What is neutral thinking?
Yeah. So, neutral thinking is dealing with the facts, right? It's dealing with the objective and concrete facts without making a big judgment or grading around them. Another way to put that is dealing with what's so without creating a giant story behind it, right? Here's what's so. The last quarter, we did not meet our sales goals. That's what's so. Now, we need to kind of look at maybe some of the behaviors and habits we were doing that led to our failure and adjust those, but we're not going to make excuses. We're not going to say it happened because the weather was bad. What we're going to do is we're going to look at that objectively and go, okay, we were at, 85,000 and we wanted to be at 150. What do we got to do now? What behaviors and actions do we have to take and put into place in order to get to that, get to that higher number? That's neutral thinking. Positive thinking is like, oh, we got 85. Don't worry about it. We're going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay without changing a dang thing. Right. And so that's the big difference. That's the big difference is the behaviors and habits. And that's where the results always come is through your actions. And so that's where neutral thinking really allows you to be objective without a ton of negative emotion around the behaviors and habits and make a conscious choice about where you want to go moving forward.
Okay. I like that. And what about mile zero? What is mile zero?
Yeah, mile zero. I you guys are, you're here in Florida. You've been down to Key West. Every time you go to Key West, you don't actually remember much about what you did in Key West. That's just the nature of that beast. But there is one thing I do remember about going down there is there is a road sign that says mile zero, and it's awesome. Like and I looked at it. It's right. It's Highway 1, mile zero. Is that the beginning or is it the end? I don't know. It's mile zero, right? But basically what it is a reset. And it's a decision of, hey, whatever's happened in the past or whatever's going to happen in the future, I'm not concerned about that. I'm going to just get to zero right now. I'm going to get the slate clean. I'm going to get to nothing. And then I'm going to move forward and decide where I want to go. And I think that's one of those big things is we can hit mile zero anytime during the day. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a good example. This morning in Sarah, there's a tropical storm out in the Gulf, right? So guess what? In Sarasota, we actually had waves you could surf. Shocking thing, right? The Gulf actually had waves. So I went out and I went surfing this morning. Got up at like 6 a.m., beat the sunrise. It was awesome. And I'm out there in the water and I haven't surfed in a minute because I live in Sarasota and you get good waves maybe once every 2 months. And so the waves were rolling in and I was catching a couple, but every time I would try and quote unquote pop up, which is you bang your hands down, you shift your weight around, you stand up, I would mess it up because I haven't popped up in ages. So here I was and I kept falling and I kept just sucking in seawater all morning long. And I just stopped. I said, stop. I got to get back to mile zero. I got out of the water. I put my board down. I took my leash off and I literally just practiced my pop-ups on dry land. Here I am, 54 years old, practicing pop-ups on dry land. People are looking at me like I'm an idiot. I don't care because I know, hey, I got to reset. I got to reset my brain. I got to reset how I feel. Okay, now I've reset. Boom, let's get back on the water. And sure enough, the rest of the morning was really solid. Just catching a couple waves here and there.
I love that. Listen, I tried surfing for the first time in Hawaii a couple weeks ago.
Oh, it's so fun, right? It's so addictive.
Yeah, so I was almost up. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And then I just kept falling. I got out of the water. I literally got out of the water, sat with my wife for a while. I was watching my kids do it. They were getting up like no problem. Right?
Yeah, they've only looked at our ground.
And then I'm like, all right, I got to try this again before we go. I almost really got up that time, but then we had
there it is. Yeah, it's addicting, man. And I tell you what, there's something beautiful about just being in the water in the morning as the sun's rising and see a dolphin swim by and you're just like, where the hell do I live? What am I doing here? This is amazing, Yeah. But that mile zero, that's what it is, man. It's just a reset. And I think within the context of the book, right? Win today, 6 steps. There's 6 different steps to having a win, and resetting at the beginning of the day is one of those steps, and taking today as a new day. This is a brand new day. Whatever happened yesterday is done. Victory, failure, whatever it was, that's done. And so now I can reset and I can move forward.
Why don't you tell everybody where they can get the book and get in touch with you on the socials?
Yeah, no doubt. Book you can get Barnes and Nobles. You can get it on Amazon. If you're in Europe, I don't know how many European listeners we have, but Waterstones over in Europe. You could also just go on to my website, joshualifrak.com, Lifrak. You can get it on there. In terms of socials, LinkedIn is the absolute best place to grab me. You could DM me if you have any questions about anything, whatever. That's definitely the easiest place to get me. And then also, there's also the opportunity to get Instagram too. I'm on Instagram a lot. So those are the two big places as well. Facebook, you can ping me there too. And they're all just Joshua Lifrak. That's my handle. Nothing exciting. We're scrolling on the website right now. Look at this. This
looks great.
Look at that. Who's that handsome guy there?
Actually doesn't even look like you. Is that you sure that's you?
Yeah, exactly. the AI, complete AI.
So Josh, let me ask you this, because we like to give actionable advice to business owners over here. Okay. First of all, I know one thing is business owners hate asking for help, right? They feel it like it's a weakness, and I tell everybody it's actually a superpower when you do it correctly, right? What are some exercises or things they can do when they feel stuck that they can take action on right now? If something's going on in their business, they don't really have anybody to talk to. What mentally can they do to start at that mile zero and reset?
Yeah. So one of the big things that I do every morning is I don't pick up my phone. Sometimes it's about what you're not doing versus what you're doing. I don't sleep with my phone in my room. I keep it outside of my room. And the first thing I do is I wake up, I have a glass of water, I feed my dog, and then I take my dog for a walk and I get outside. Getting outside into fresh air is such a cleanser, and walking is such a great thing to get your mind rolling and moving. I think what happens is we're inundated in this time of our lives, in this time in history. We're just getting pummeled by notifications and what everybody else is doing and this and that and the other thing. And I think if you can kind of step away from that for a second and just catch a breath, and then when you're away, when you kind of catch that breath and either get outside or get off of your phone or get off of your computer or whatever, when you get into that quiet a little bit, what you can do is you could decide, you can really start defining your story and deciding how you want to be in that day. And we talked about this earlier, setting your intention and making that decision of who you want to be every day. That is a huge, huge factor to success. Because normally we don't. Like, I'll do this. Like I said, I was up in Chicago. I had 300 people in the room. I asked, hey, how many people set an intention every day? One dude raised his hand. Right? I do it every single day. No matter what, I'm going to set my intention. If I don't do anything else, that's what I'm going to do, because that will allow me to then kind of have a direction of where I want to go that day. And so, for a business leader, maybe their intention is I want to be productive today. Right? And then that's going to look a certain way. Maybe their intention is I'm going to be open to possibilities today. Maybe it's going to be I'm going to be resourceful today. Whatever it might be, those are types of ways that you could decide to be that might lead you to a different answer.
Josh, thank you so much for being here. We want to be respectful of your time. And, I just got one more question before I let you run, So there's a difference between confidence and delusion. Right? It's a pretty fine line, but somehow business owners, athletes, and high performers get cozy with both of them, right? So how can you tell the difference?
Because the confidence is born out of their behaviors and habits and their actions and their preparation and how they talk to themselves, really, things of that nature. Delusion is like, again, I'm not going to take BP today. I'm not going to watch any video. I'm just going to hope that things turn out well. All right. So I think that there's a difference. So I can tell the difference based on how the person is reacting, preparing, how they're responding to different things, and just kind of like basically it's just their work ethic, to be honest with you, and I think when you look at that, again, results are born out of behaviors and actions. And so if you have the behaviors and actions that lead to your confidence, that's not delusional that you should expect to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. What's delusional is I don't do a dang thing, and I'll just go sit in my room all day, smoke pot, and freaking watch TV, and everything's gonna come to me. Like, that's delusional, bro. What are you doing? You know?
Listen,
so
I'm 340 pounds. I'm gonna have abs, but I'm gonna eat Burger King every single day.
Yeah, Diet Coke though, bro. Diet Coke. Come on.
Josh, this is awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody, that's a wrap of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll catch you on the next episode.